You're listening to Galaxy of Film. All right, and welcome back to the brand episode of Galaxy of Film. I'm, of course, your host, Max, and this week stepping up in the co-host role is none other than our man, Brandon Messina. How are you doing, bro?
I'm good, Max. Finally, good to be back on a Galaxy Film episode after being out for so long.
Have you been out for so long?
Well, as far as the main podcast, because I do most of my work on the LFG stuff, so
yeah,
it's nice
sure.
to come back on, do the main show for a change.
I thought it's only been a couple weeks, dude. I gotta take a look when this is airing. The schedule is full of time traveling.
I mean, I guess for me, it must feel like a long time then, I guess.
Only the best here at Galaxy of Film. Only the best here.
Exactly.
Thankfully, we aren't alone this week. First up, we got our boy Johnny Zuko. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. I can't wait to talk Goosebumps, man. It's been a while since I was able to talk about this series and this movie. So
Absolutely.
I'm really excited. I'm excited to talk about this.
Glad to get you back on here as well, too. Of course, a couple weeks ago, we were discussing some Final Destination with the creator Jeffrey Reddick, too. So it's going to get you back on for some cool episodes like this. But of course, as everyone can tell by the title, we are discussing Goosebumps. And not only that, we do have a special guest with us this week. We have Illustrator for all of Goosebumps, basically. Tim Jacobus, how are you doing, man?
What's up, gentlemen? Thanks for having me. That was very cool.
Of course. First of all, how are you doing? How's your week been going so far?
Yes, everything is good. It's good to be alive.
There we go.
Especially when you get to be my age, it's good to be alive.
Love the positive energy.
Love to hear that.
Absolutely. So yeah, of course, we were going to be discussing some Goosebumps here this week. We're going to be diving into the show that came out in 95 and then kind of diving into a little bit of the Jack Black film that came out in 2015. I know Goosebumps is back again, now for the second time here on Disney Plus recently. That one I have not had a chance to watch just yet, but we may dab a little bit in later on towards the end of the episode. But primarily we're focusing on the original show and then the movie as well. So yeah, real quick, before we even start discussing films or anything like that, I wanted you to go ahead, Tim, if you wouldn't mind, kind of discussing what you did with Goosebumps, how you got into this whole career field and the story of just how all this went down for you.
So I am the original Goosebumps illustrator. It happened, I was kind of standing in the right place at the right time. I had worked at Scholastic for a couple of years doing book covers for them. No series work, no horror work, just some kids' books, science fiction, fantasy, did a lot of mystery books for them. And I had proven myself to be somebody who got his stuff done on time. My work was consistent. And to back it up, that on time thing, that's more important than almost anything, especially in the publishing business. So when the Goosebumps thing came along, I wasn't working on anything. And, it was like, well, you haven't done any horror, but this is a little bit different and maybe you might be a good fit. If I was working on another book at the time, it would have got passed on to the next guy. So, it just happened to be, the bus pulled up and I got on. And the interesting thing about it is, I don't know how much history you guys know of this, but no one thought the Goosebumps series was going to be successful. The studying they had done and the surveys they took and the feedback that they got was that, it probably wouldn't fly because nobody had done a horror series for kids that age. And it would just generally would be, perceived as too scary. And they actually came to me with the notion that, look, if you at the beginning they were talking about 4 books. I said, listen, if you help us with this, do a couple of these book covers, or at least do one at the beginning. Our budget isn't even the normal budget to do a book cover. You're going to take a couple of $100 hit on this.
Mhm.
But if you help us out with this, we promise you that, after this is over, we'll put you on to, and the exact phrase was, we'll put you on to something good. And I wasn't busy. $200 wasn't the end of the world. Having a job and doing a job is, you just take them all. That was my attitude back then. And I got a chance to read the first chapter of Welcome to Dead House. That was the
Okay.
assignment for my first cover. And as soon as I read it, I went, oh, I didn't know who R.L. Stine was either, by the way.
Mm.
So I just read through it and I went, oh, I like this. I like the rhythm of this. I like the way this is playing out. This will be fun. Yeah, put me on board. I'm ready to go. And yeah, I did my first cover, and the series didn't like just rocket off. It actually kind of faltered for a while, and they talked about maybe giving up on the series. And somewhere between, book 6, book 9, you guys, because there was no social media or internet or anything it was there, but it wasn't, anything to speak of. You guys were just word of mouth, and you started talking up the books, and you got your parents to buy you a couple of copies, and the sales went from flat to through the roof in literally 2 months.
Those book fairs, man. Those book
Yeah,
fairs.
I was just about to say, man, I
Yeah.
would go home and say, hey, mom, I need $5 to get this book, please.
Yeah, those scholastic and book fairs, that we were pumping them in on you. If you were of a specific age, and you were, between the ages of 7 and 11 in the 90s, you couldn't escape Goosebumps. It was being mainstreamed, pipelined into your schools, and it was everywhere.
Oh, even in the 2000s, like I was born, November 99, so I am a 90s baby. I'll flex that till I die, But growing up in the 2000s, Goosebumps was still everywhere throughout my
absolutely,
childhood,
absolutely.
which was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like we had the posters in the library up for him too. We had a whole section that was just dedicated to Goosebumps. Like, and specifically in elementary school, I'll never forget it. There was like 3 sections that I would frequent in the library. First would be like the Garfield comics, which were in the backhand side of the library next to the Bibles for some reason, which is Garfield.
Next to the Bible.
Yeah, it was great, man. And the Young Indiana Jones novels, where he would do like a random serial adventure, kind of tie-in with the show. And Goosebumps. Those were like my 3 go-tos. And they all had, for whatever reason, their own unique, like individual, like pillar of the library. They were nowhere near each other. Goosebumps was nowhere near Garfield and the Bibles, unfortunately. But to me, they went hand in hand, like Garfield and the Bible.
Awesome.
Yeah. So man, Goosebumps was definitely very prominent. Brandon, you and I were discussing this past week, that it's mind-blowing some of the actors who kind of got started or worked on Goosebumps early on too. Ryan Gosling was on Goosebumps. Hayden Christensen, like Anakin Skywalker,
Yeah,
in a Goosebumps episode, which is absolutely wild to me. Now, Johnny, I'm curious for you, man, because obviously totally different coast from us, totally different school system, stuff like that. Was Goosebumps kind of the same thing for you, just kind of being introduced to it through book fairs and through like random library stuff? Yeah.
Well, it's mostly through the book fairs. When I used to go, the elementary schools, I used to go like every springtime, like clockwork, around March, book fair. And the teachers would always tell us, bring your money, bring your slips, whatever you want to do. And they would always give us like this list of books, and Goosebumps was always on there. And one of the pictures is on there. And I'm like, we're marking this one right here. And I was telling them, I was like, I want this. And Goosebumps were the first books that I ever actually read as a kid. Like nothing else interested me except Goosebumps. That was the thing. I think that was like my gateway into horror. And because the horror movies that I have seen were all they were not kid friendly. I watched Nightmare on Elm Street at a very young age when I wasn't supposed to. But Goosebumps was really something for kids. It was very morality based, and there were some real genuine scares, stranger danger, this and that, and it's like some real fears for kids. And I thought it played up very well. And then when the TV series jumped off, I was like, man, we got our own Tales of the Crypt for kids. So like I was stoked, man. 4 p.m. 4 p.m., man, I would rush home and watch the Goosebumps episodes, man. Like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm not missing Goosebumps. No way.
I feel like this was also, I think, kind of my soft introduction to horror. I was a guest star on a different podcast probably like 2 years ago, and they invited me to come on and talk Creep Show, the comic film, where I think it's a 4 short stories or 3 short
Yeah, the
stories.
anthology movie.
Yeah, I had never seen that before. I'd never seen Creep Show. And these are older guys in the podcast, and there's nothing wrong with it. It was a good episode still. But the entire time they're hyping up Creep Show, and I'm just like, dang, this feels like a cheap Goosebumps episode. Like, what is this, man? Like I hold Goosebumps up to such a high regard, and I think it's because of that, Johnny. Like, it is the perfect introduction for horror for kids, you
It
know.
is.
And the
It-
cool thing is, you brought up too, like you get some stranger danger moments. Like you get like the kid scare scenarios. They get the proper treatment with Goosebumps, which is pretty
yeah.
cool.
And I never felt like the author ever talked down to his kids, because he knew exactly how to talk to the children. And I always felt like those books were they were talking to us, not at us. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things
Exactly.
I really do appreciate R.L. Stein. Like, he just knew how to talk to that generation, and maybe even still, because I haven't read a newer book or Fear Street or anything like that. I haven't read any of those, but Goosebumps holds like a real special place in my heart.
Mm-hmm. I 100% understand that, man. And Brandon, what about for you? Like, what was your main introduction? Was it the books or the shows, or the episodes of the shows?
So when I was in elementary school, definitely like the library was, one way of me kind of experiencing the Goosebumps books. Also some of the teachers had their own little like book catalog that they would have in the classrooms too. I found most of them there too. What really got me interested was the covers, especially like probably the ones Tim have drawn before. So those those are the ones that really like caught my eye as far as like knowing Goosebumps and like having to be aware, because I mean stuff like Monster Blood, or uh remember distinctively like the Stay Out of the Basement cover where like the plant hands coming out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just some things that just caught my eye too. Also too, when I was a kid, I also had the VHS, like a small like collection of the VHS tapes of the Goosebumps show.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, I had stuff like Werewolf of Fever Swamp.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the Executioner one. Oh, I forgot the
Night
name of
in
it.
Terror Tower.
Nine Tower.
Night and Terror.
Just
That one
rewatched
too.
that recently. Yeah.
And then obviously the more popular ones like Stay Out of the Basement and the Haunted Mask and
Mm.
the Haunted House one, I believe. So those were really like my introductions to the Goosebumps kind of whole genre, pretty much.
Okay, I feel you, man. I feel you. That's wonderful to hear, man. And this is a totally not like credible question for this. Just it's the weird thing that may have only happened in my public school system. But Tim, I'm curious for you, man, because you are the illustrator, you are the artist who's done all these covers I've seen my entire life. Have you ever noticed within school systems this ugly thing they do to books where they laminate the hardcovers, like not the dust jackets or anything, but the actual hardcovers, or turning paperbacks into hardcovers? You ever see those?
I it's not everywhere. It's not a global thing. So
Okay.
I've only seen it in isolated places.
Okay.
I've seen more of the book is so beat up, and there's lots of scotch tape, and they're
Yeah.
doing their
Those are
best
the
to
books.
keep that cover on there. And they've done, they've gone through everything to just preserve it a little bit longer until they can get another copy. But I haven't, I've seen pictures of the laminated. I've never touched one.
Okay. See, when the ones that are in my library in school, it was weird. They're so faded, so beat up to hell that like the colors are off because kids are ripping off the layers of lamination and whatnot. So I don't think it until I was probably in high school when I got to see like clear images of your covers for the first time, because every one of these copies looked like it was like the Necronomicon or something. They were so beat to hell.
Everything smoky and mysterious.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, let's go ahead and kind of start diving into the show in just a moment, guys. But before we go ahead and go over that, we're going to go over a quick break for us real quick, and we're going to go over our stream of the week this week, brought to you guys by Tyler. So when we come back, we're going to go ahead and start diving into Goosebumps. We'll be right back, guys.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey, it's Will from Galaxy Films Mayhem Pictures Division. For this stream of the week, I wanted to talk about Apple TV's recently released series, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. This is the first live-action series a part of Legendary Pictures' Godzilla Kong Monsterverse. Picking up after the events of Godzilla 2014, two siblings uncover their father's connection to the secret monster hunting organization known as Monarch. This series is actually pretty great. There's a massive focus on world building that the films in this universe so far have glossed over. That being how the world would react and evolve to the revelation of giant monsters like Godzilla existing. While Godzilla and the other Titans don't rack up too much screen time, whenever they are there, it looks incredible for a TV budget. Being a television series, we have to spend a lot more time with the human characters, and I can say with certainty that these are the best characters in the Monsterverse. The standout, of course, being Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt, who are both playing the same character during two different periods in time. All the flashbacks detailing the origin of Monarch are especially fascinating. This series does a great job filling in the gaps between the films while also crafting their own unique narrative amongst the kaiju chaos. With a season 2 and multiple spin-offs on the way, now is the perfect time to watch Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV.
All right, guys, and we're back from our break. First up, let's go ahead and dive into the show. Of course, this came out in 95.
I do have one question, Max. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, John.
I have a question for Tim, because this is something that I've always wanted to ask. How did you come up with your covers? Like, did you read like specific parts of the book and like thought, okay, I got an idea on how I'm gonna draw this, or was there a lot of creative collaborations with R.L. Stine and other the writers or something like that?
So, other than the very first book where I said I got a chance to read the first chapter of Welcome to Deadhouse, R.L. was writing the book at the same time I was doing the cover. So he would send me the title of the book and a couple of sentences telling me what it was about. And then he'd go do his thing, and I would start to put some sketches together. I worked with the same art director regularly. She was real good. Again, everybody, because like I said at the beginning, no one was feeling like this was going to be a big deal or this was a very hot property. They kind of let us do whatever we wanted. So I would do 3 sketches for every one of the books. If somebody had an idea, I would do their idea. But then I would definitely do at least 1 or 2 of my ideas, and I would just submit them. The art directors and the editors would take a look at those sketches, and they would make up their mind which way they wanted it to go. Because we were fast tracking this whole thing, they would just pick one and go, okay, yeah, we like sketch number 2. Go ahead and do the painting. And back then there was no digital art for the common man. So these were acrylic paintings, 20 inches by 20 inches.
Oh, wow.
It was a combination of brush and airbrush, and it was acrylic paints. And then I would hustle along and get it done. And when the finished art was complete, they would send it over to RL. And he would just see it when it was finished. He never got a chance to say, oh, I like that sketch, or I don't like that sketch. He was completely out of the loop.
Really?
In the process. And that's kind of the way they handle it with illustrators and authors all along. It's a silly process. You would think they would at least put us together for a meeting, or a get to know, and here's my thoughts. Here's I would have loved to have heard his thoughts on a couple of the things, but no, they keep you sepaate.
Has RL ever said anything about any of the covers, or like have you
so I kind of while we were doing it, so I did my first one in 92, and I did my last one in 2000, and I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe earlier than that, I'm not sure. Anyway, we had very limited contact. We knew each other. He was very, very nice to me, but we didn't discuss when we got together. We didn't talk shop. We talked about other stuff. But now that the world has changed, and we've done a couple of Zoom things. We've done a couple of comic book conventions together. We've gotten a chance to speak more in an environment where we're sitting for a long time and a lot of questions get answered, and I start to hear more feedback on which ones worked out good. And up until the past 5 years was the first time I ever got a chance for him to say, oh, I like the stuff you did. He might have written that in a letter to me in the 90s, but no, it wasn't until recent. The only one that gave him trouble, and I didn't know this again until a couple of years ago, and it was always a piece that I thought was one of the better ones, and that was kind of one of the top books that kind of, if you had I have the whole series. I've got over 100 covers, but if somebody said, pick these top 5 to be representative of the Goosebumps, this was one of them, and it's called Say Cheese and Die. And on the cover, there's a family of skeletons barbecuing in the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that cover.
That was my first book.
That was very cool.
So my first book. Just because of cover alone, I was like, what the hell? I need to read this. I thought this was about zombies or something. I was like, what? I need to read it. And then I read about it. I was like, oh shit, this is way darker than what I thought.
So we get done with the cover. I submitted the 3 sketches. This was the one we thought was the best. Went ahead and did the painting, and they sent it over to RL, and he took a look at it, and he's like, yeah, this is a great painting, but there's no family of skeletons barbecuing in my story. And the editors at Scholastic said, well, it's going to take a whole lot longer for Tim to repaint the painting, so you got to find a place in that story and fit that in there. So he had to reluctantly go in and write in a dream sequence in the middle of the story that brings our family of skeletons barbecuing to life. And he hates dream sequences, by the way. So
that's hilarious.
So fascinating.
Yeah, but I was sitting there, the first time I heard it, I'm going, what? I've never heard this before. That was a 20-year span between when I finished that art and I heard that story.
That's absolutely hilarious, man. I just rewatched the episode recently too, actually, part of my list. I was thinking that was the first one we pulled up the other day. Wow, that's too perfect. Well, Good shit. Gorgeous artwork. Glad you changed that story because it was worth it. Very glad. But let's gonna dive into the shows. This came out in 95, and yeah, these were half-hour segments that were just kind of like horror tales, kind of one-off, like an anthology series. Whenever, as a teenager and now as an adult, as I'm hearing about what John Carpenter had planned for Halloween, it reminds me much of what I expect Goosebumps to have been if it were much more mature kind of deal. Very much of the anthology thing. There were a couple like 2-part episodes, like A Night in Terror Tower being one of them. The Haunted Mask as well, which I think is that's the first episode of the show too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think everyone's seen Haunted Mask 1,000 times. It feels like
That's like a Halloween
Goosebumps.
staple. Like,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
cannot start Halloween season without watching that. Like, seriously.
Yeah, yeah. A matter of fact, dude, because again, I watched some horror movies a little too early on, just like you, Johnny. I think the first time I watched Halloween, I was 10 or 11, and it scared the absolute hell out of me, But, but yeah, I refused to watch Halloween 3 for quite some time because in my mind, in my adolescent mind, I was like, oh, I don't want this to watch a ripoff of Goosebumps, despite it coming out well before. But yeah, man, Johnny,
You gotta do yourself a favor and watch that one.
I've seen it since then, but
okay.
As a kid, I would refuse to. Johnny, I'm really curious for you, man. Growing up, what were some of like your standout like episodes away from the books?
Night of the Living Dummy.
Okay.
I was a big Chucky fan, and my nickname in junior high was Chucky because I was just like a little pudgy kid, and my cheeks were so red, and I had like a fucking bowl cut, and so everyone called me Chucky, and my hair was like way brown too, it was like a reddish brown and shit. So people just called me Chucky, and so Night of the Living Dummy is one of them.
Okay.
Stay at the Basement's a good one. And the library one, I think the one with the werewolf. Can't remember what that one was. It was episode 3, I think.
No, I'm not off the top of my head. There's so much Goosebumps, man.
Girl Who Cried Monster.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
there we go.
That one's fire.
Okay.
That is a fire episode.
I love Welcome to Camp Nightmare. That one will always stand out. I think Camp Nightmare is like my most memorable episode that I would always like rewatch constantly, right after Haunted Mask for sure. Yeah, obviously this was of course a Halloween staple. I don't remember what channel Goosebumps came on though, because
For me it was Fox.
Was it Fox? Okay.
Yeah.
It was Cartoon Network for me because I remember they showed a bunch of the reruns on that when I was growing up.
That was around Halloween time, correct?
I think it just in general, from what I remember, they would just have the reruns of Goosebumps on Cartoon Network.
See, when I was a kid, at some point we had like Dish Network for a couple of years. So there's a whole chunk of my childhood when it comes to television where I was watching like really funky TV channels. Like there was a Speed Racer sequel series called like Next Generation or whatever that I was watching on some iteration of Nickelodeon because there was like 10 copies on Dish Network. It was ridiculous. But Goosebumps was always playing on one of those channels. I don't know if it was Fox or Cartoon Network, one of the 20 Cartoon Networks that were on there. But it was like an all year round thing for me as well, man. Like Goosebumps was something I'd pop on when I'm sick at home kind of thing constantly. It was like old reliable. Tim, I know you're a bit biased because you've worked on these before with the covers, of course. What were some of your favorite stories and favorite episodes as well of Goosebumps?
Oh, well, so the TV show came out later on, in the series, and of course we were still active producing the covers. The part that I liked the best about them, again, it was way cool that something that I worked on was now in live action. Never anticipated it, was never anything that we discussed early on. So none of the art was created for, with that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no, they didn't call me up and talk to me. I wasn't part of the setup. So I just tuned in like you guys tuned in to see what they were going to do. And they were notoriously on a tight budget. So there were things that I created that lent themselves to being done and being very close to here's my art, and what's going on in the TV episode is way close to what I did. The Haunted Mask is a perfect example that very similar to the art on the cover, the story, and what they did on TV was the same. But then there were other ones where, we got way off the mark, and if, they were going to need CGI and a $40 million budget to make what I created. And so I like dialing in for those episodes to go, all right, what are you guys going to do here? Because you don't have the budget. And, there were times where they changed the story, they did a wholesale change. And then there were other ones where I got surprised and went, oh, that's a pretty cool way of, doing my art and spinning it enough that it works in the live action. So yeah, I was more interested on the other side of, okay, let's see what you guys are going to do with this one.
That's neat. Yeah, it makes it a bit more interesting too. It's like almost like your own individual game for Goosebumps. See how close it gets. I like that. That's pretty cool. Okay. Now, Brandon, I know this is something you obviously grew up with through pretty much all your childhood as well. When you look back on Goosebumps, like what sticks out for you, like right off the bat? Not necessarily just a particular episode, but particular scenes for you, characters, any moments in general, any random memories you have watching it.
Well, just rewatching it for this specific episode too, I've now noticed more how Canadian the actors are because I hear the stories and the nose and I just gotta remember. It just got me thinking like, oh yeah, this was a Canadian production. So
it's funny you mentioned that. Caleb, one of our PAs on the films we do here. I was watching Say Cheese and Die with them, and then I think it was A Night in Terror Tower, and he brought that up. He was like, "Sorry," like four different
sorry.
It's hilarious.
One that really sticks with you, too. Also, too, just of how like cheesy and like how bad some of the acting is sometimes, or for the most part, I'll say the acting is really bad.
It's a children's show,
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I gotta like take that into consideration, but and then two with the show, just how outrageous too it can be sometimes, just ripping stuff from the book and just like inserting like CGI, like Tim said, into like the scenes, just very obvious CGI too. But I think that's just part of the charm of Goosebumps. Just kind of like in its own like time capsule, I guess, or just part of like the nostalgia of just remembering what Goosebumps was like growing up.
I agree. I feel like if Goosebumps, and again, I haven't seen the new Disney Plus one, so maybe it's totally different now.
Yeah.
I feel like with this original series, like the flaws add to it. This is what makes it special. These flaws in the show are the equivalent of that book looking like the Necronomicon at my library. Every story is a crease on the cover. It adds character to it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, like I'd like to define Goosebumps as kind of like, in most cases, it's so bad it's good. Like it's just like that, just kind of like it's just harmless, like it's just part of the fun, I guess, is just the best way to put it.
No, I understand that. I can see that. Okay. And Johnny, what about you? What are some of the like off beat memories on the top of your head when you think of Goosebumps when it comes to watching this thing or even reading them?
I remember the one memory that comes to mind was the haunted mask. I remember me and my friends, like we were all big Goosebumps fans. And my friend Torres, he had like a massive collection of Goosebumps books, and I would always borrow them and read them. And my stepdad at the time went to the store and rented the haunted mask and surprised me and my friend Torres and my other buddy Carl. Said, look, guys, I got Goosebumps. We get some Cassies, we're gonna get some pizza, some wings, and some drinks, and we're gonna fucking watch this shit tonight. I'm like, what? Like, hell
like, oh, shit, so, that sounds like a good party.
They all asked their parents, like, hey, can we all go to Johnny's house and just hang out? Like, yeah, go ahead. So 8:00, he pops it in, and we're just sitting there in the dark watching this movie. And at the end of it, man, we all looked at each other like, dude, this shit was fire. Like, what the fuck? That was badass. Like, we were so excited. Dude, we were so excited. And then when we found out that there was going to be a TV show, because we had no internet, we didn't know like if this was actually going to happen, if this was just a one-off or whatever. But then when we found out that it was a TV show, man, 4:00, like I said earlier, man, I ran home and sat there and fucking watched Goosebumps, man. And then I watched Power Rangers right after it.
You're a lot cooler than I was at that age, dude. At 4 o'clock, I was running home to watch episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger. That's what I was doing after school.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just imagining now Johnny and his bunch of friends going, "Oh shit! I can't believe Slappy just did that."
No, yeah, that's hilarious.
He's eating the weights.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that too, Brandon. Slappy in particular. You know, kind of diving into the movie for a second. I had never seen the Jack Black film. This came out when I was in high school.
Mhm.
And again, 2015 movies, for whatever reason, I was just not in a theater 2015. I went like twice. So a lot of things I missed that year. And this being one of them, unfortunately. So going back and watching this Jack Black film and seeing Slappy as one of the main antagonists is just incredible. It works out so well. We'll talk more about the movie in a moment, of course, but goodness, man. Goosebumps it knows what it is, and I love that. It's so self-aware, and that's why it works. It's brilliant.
Exactly, yeah.
Tim, do you have any other standout memories looking back on this franchise as a whole for you?
Just with I just wanted you kind of touched on it with the TV show.
Mhm.
I find it much more fun to watch it now. Watching it in the 90s was great. Watching it in the 2000s was great. But, so when you're watching it at the time, it kind of was, that was state of the art. That was what a lot of other stuff looks like. Now, when you step back and it's been 20, 30 years and you get to really see how dated it is, and the clothes, the cars, the phrasing in the scripts, it's just way more entertaining now. And not that they were trying to be funny, or like you say, they weren't leaning into the campiness, but it just becomes that, and it really has a real nice nostalgia feel, and you can watch it even and you end up smiling a whole lot more just because it's such a timed piece.
It is, and you mentioned specifically like the phrasing of the script. Another thing that feels dated is the cinematography, and it works out.
Yeah,
Seeing a lot of like in a Night in Terror Tower, for example, they're doing the Adam West Batman thing where everyone's crooked and slanted. And I love that. It's like the whole episode is shot like that.
yeah.
It's like there's not a chance in hell you'd see it on any streaming service now, but it worked back then, and it works out well looking back on it. I absolutely agree. Let's go ahead and I guess dive into the 2015 film full on now. Brandon, did you watch this when this came out when you were in high school as well?
I did not. I mean, I've seen bits and parts of it up until then, but just recently I just watched it for the first time.
Okay, gotcha. And Johnny, what about you? Was this a first time watch for you, or did you watch this in
No,
theaters?
this was actually a rewatch. I watched this during lockdown. I actually did a double feature with this because I went to go see Haunted Halloween, I think a year after or something like that. It was around the time where we're still like in this weird place, like lockdown but not lockdown. So
Okay.
I went to go see Haunted Halloween. I saw Haunted Halloween first, and then I went back and saw this one. And I don't know which one I like better, to tell you the truth. Because at first I thought Haunted Halloween was really, really good and it was really fun. And then rewatching this one, I'm like, shit, these are actually both equally good movies. Like, I have no qualm with this, with either one of these movies. I think both of them are actually exceptional films.
I haven't had a chance to watch the sequel yet. I'll have to have you talk about that in a moment as well. I'm glad to hear that you hold it to a high regard, though. And I'm glad it holds up because Jack Black's back in that one too. He came back for, right?
Yeah, but he's not as prominent as in the first one.
Yeah, because I mean, R.L. Stein's just a whole character in that first one.
Yeah, R.L. Stein. Yeah, he's actually the protagonist in this one, where it's like these stranger thing kids are like the protagonist. They're trying to capitalize on that, which I don't really mind because it works. It actually works for that film. So
okay. And Tim, what about you? Did you get a chance to watch this when it was in production, when it was coming out initially? Like, when did you watch the film?
So early on, there was talk of Goosebumps movies a lot. In the 90s, there was a time where RL and Scholastic sat down with Tim Burton, and they were trying to hammer out a deal. and they just couldn't get a script to work. There was, I don't know who the next person was, but there was another talk of a movie. So in 2015, or no, it's more like 2013. It was a couple of years prior. I started to see stuff on the internet talking about that there's going to be a Goosebumps movie. I thought it was all BS, and I was just blowing it off. I'm going, well, if we couldn't make it happen in the heyday, why is it gonna fly now?
Mhm.
And I either emailed or I saw RL. We were at an event together, and I said, "Hey, what's this? What's this about a movie?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it's really happening." And he told me then that he was going to be played by Jack Black, and I kind of rolled my eyes, and I went, "Oh, I know RL, I know what he's
Mhm.
like. I've only seen Jack Black. I don't know him, but I'm just going, they're not the same." And I'm going, are we? My biggest fear was, are they going to screw with this? We have a nice little thing that sits over here. I'm very proud to be part of it. Are they going to try and like, is Jack Black going to do over the top Jack Black thing, and are we going to just veer off with this? And so.
So I take it you're not a Tenacious D fan.
Oh, I am. No, I love them. I have Tenacious D recordings. Absolutely not. You're misunderstanding. I'm just saying that guy is not R.L. Stine. That's all I'm saying. And so the movie, RL, tells me, he keeps me posted. Then once we have this discussion, he's like, yeah, we got the live action's already been filmed. Now it's going to be a year of special effects. And of course, the whole time I'm thinking, gee, I'd like to be a little part of this thing, a little piece of art somewhere, maybe movie poster, I don't know. And so they're doing the special effects stuff, and now the movie's nearing completion, and nobody's called me, and I go, all right, I'm cool. And it's now the summer before it's supposed to come out. It's going to come out in October. We're at the end of the summer of 2015.
Mhm.
And I get a phone call. I get an email. We need to talk to you. We need some art done. You got to sign all the NDAs. Can't talk to anybody. Don't tell anybody. And I'm going, I don't know what this is. Get on the call. Long story short, they're going, yeah, listen, at the end of the movie, we've got this thing that we're doing. Jack Black, who's R.L. Stine, he sees the invisible boy in the glass case typing on his computer. He turns to the camera, he screams, and he morphs onto a Goosebumps cover, and that's how the movie ends.
Mhm.
And we've been trying to recreate this Goosebumps cover, and it looks like crap. And finally, somebody on the team said, well, why don't we just call Tim and have him paint one?
Mhm.
And that's what they did. So last minute, I got a chance to concoct a piece of art real quick, and it's there at the end of the movie. So if you don't blink, you can see a piece of my art as the movie ends.
That's beautiful, man.
Very
Okay.
cool.
Yeah. But what was great was then now I'm in it. I get to be a little part of it. My son at the time he's 24. He was 15, and
Oh, so he's our age then. Okay, I'm also.
Yeah. He's
Okay.
he's 20. He's 25 now. He's
Mhm.
he's 15, and he's in school, and his grades are all that great. And it's just him and I living here. And I get a very lovely offer of coming out, go to California, go to a premiere, meet the cast, do a whole thing. And I gotta go, listen, we can't do that. My kid can't miss, 4 days of school, and I'd love to do it, but sorry. And they said, okay, well, we'll get back to you. And then they called back and they said, all right, we're going to put something together for you. We're going to end of the day Friday. We're going to put you on a plane. You're going to fly through the night. You're going to get off the plane. You're going to run here. You're going to get the chance to be at the thing. Then Saturday night, we're going to put you back on a plane again. You'll be back in New Jersey Sunday night and your kid gets to go back to school on Monday morning. And it's like, wow, all right, we're in. So
there you go, man.
yeah, so got a chance to go see a premiere of the movie. I hadn't read any of the script. Got a chance to see the movie in a theater with a whole bunch of other people. Got a chance to shake Jack Black's hand, and also you got to remember my kid over the years. You know, when your dad does something, you don't think it's cool.
Yeah,
and you know, and Goosebumps was still popular, but it was still just the old man stories. You know, hey man, you know, I used to be on this thing and was really popular, and then to go out there and then be part of it, and then going, holy smokes, I knew this was kind of big, but I didn't know it was this big. So I finally got a little shine on me on that trip.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
it's really nice of them to do that too.
It was very great of them to do it. But the point I wanted to make was then I got a chance to sit and watch the movie, and I was so happy watching the movie. It was better than I thought it was going to be. It had all the things that would make it a Goosebumps story, but they also made it their own thing. That was the part that I liked the best. It wasn't just this, you know, it wasn't just a lift from the book. They made it their own thing. They wrote their own story. Yeah, the characters are all there, but they did a nice reimagining of the whole series. So no, I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled.
That's awesome. I'm so glad they took care of you. That's wonderful to hear, honestly. The Goosebumps being a nice family experience, despite being a family film style. Like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was
very awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I know, like you mentioned, like the movie is like a reimagining. It's its own story. Obviously, the show is cool because each episode is one of the novels. The movie, however, is all about R.L. Stine being the neighbor to. We actually got one of the guys from 13 Reasons Why and Holly from The Office, which is pretty funny.
Yeah,
moving in next to R.L. Stine. And they're kind of like the outcast on the block kind of deal. And during this, what's his name from 13 Reasons, dude? I'm drawing a blank.
It's like Dylan something.
Is that the actor's name? I'm talking about the character's name. I know the character's name is. I know he's Zach in Goosebumps. I'm saying in 13 Reasons. What is it? Tyler, I think.
Oh, I have no idea. I haven't seen that.
Clay. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you. Yeah. So, Clay's kind of like the outcast in this bit too, and is trying to just fit in because he's a new kid in the block kind of deal. Ends up becoming friends with R.L. Stine's daughter, and all the books start coming to life basically. And Slappy ends up kind of taking advantage of this, takes the rest of the books and starts setting all the spirits free basically in every book. And it's up to Clay and R.L. Stine, his daughter, and their friends to go ahead and stop this. And they got to get R.L. Stine's magic typewriter for him to rewrite the stories and to write a new one of like basically solving the whole issue at hand. There's this cool plot twist where R.L. Stine's daughter isn't real. She's actually written from one of his stories in the typewriter. And we get like a whole cool sequence for a lot of it's kind of like a greatest hits bit. We're seeing a lot of the classic villains come back. We get our moments of defeating them yet again. And we, wrap up our own story, and we get a little, happy ending, of course. Hannah, the daughter, comes back, but it's kind of cool to see as well that like they treat the ending a bit serious. They treat R.L. Stine with some humanity. He finds a new purpose and is able to teach, which is pretty cool. It's not like they just shut him off to go be like an Edward Scissorhands character where he's off the top of the mountain being the outcast still. But like, no, they give him a solid ending. Like, I was surprised. I don't know what I was expecting when I was 15 in high school and I avoided this movie, because like I was avoiding everything else in 2015. But this is really like a fun, pleasant watch. Like, I really enjoyed this. If this isn't in whatever rotation with the show on like, Halloween marathons getting prepped up for the season, it'll for sure be in my rotation, at least after Goosebumps marathon. Brandon, what are some of your initial thoughts after watching the film for the first time?
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point in that like it's its own thing rather than like, oh, here's a character from this book and then here's a character from that book. They actually tried to like weave everybody into the story in a smoother way, I guess, which is really nice. But also keeps in tune with what the books were about, too. I also do like the writing in this movie too. I think they really write the characters just as these like um fun like they're not dumb people. Like they actually like
Yeah.
find ways to like solve the situation and all that stuff. And it is funny too. There's a lot of like funny moments in
Mhm.
this movie, especially with the champ character. I think the guy who plays him he was just really good in that role too. Also Jack Black plays our like the R.L. Stein character so great. It's like almost something that like we haven't really seen from Jack Black in that specific role, because in
Mm.
this movie he's more of like kind of like what's the word I'm thinking of? He thinks too highly of himself, I guess, is what the character is trying to
Yeah, he's
portray.
he's on like a pedestal almost.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely like trying to keep things to himself,
Mhm.
his insecurities, all that as well. But Jack Black really plays it really well in
I
that too.
agree. We talked about this a couple weeks ago on the podcast whenever we did Tenacious D and Nacho Libre. Jack Black's a solid actor, man. He holds
Yeah,
up. You
Absolutely.
know, like for whatever again, like it's one of those things where he's in a lot of films my parents would have deemed stupid when I'm growing up. They didn't really care
yeah.
for Kung Fu Panda, they didn't care for Nacho Libre. I'm all over that stuff, especially at that age, dude. I'm still over it, you know? Like I just got a job at a movie theater. I'm putting the Kung Fu Panda 4 standee in my living room in a couple
There we
weeks. I'm
go.
bringing
There
that
we
thing
go.
home, dude. So it's cool, like looking back at this, especially, you know, like Jack Black doesn't have a lot of misses, and this was right before he did the Jumanji remakes too. So he was
That's
kind of
right.
on a roll at this point.
Was it? Did he have like a break in like acting around this time? Like, was this one of his
Shortly
like?
after,
Okay, because
yeah.
I thought I remembered him like taking like a short break right around this time. So it was like still like a nice surprise to just see him in like kind of like a not a different take, but something that he's not as comfortable portraying
Mhm.
on screen like this. He's much more of like um
He's a physical actor.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
his body
agree.
is the joke half the time he's in a movie.
No, yeah, he actually like kind of like
Yeah,
he plays.
he does the Chris Farley stuff. Yeah, man,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I get where you're coming
I agree.
from. 100.
Took the words
percent
out of my mouth.
But no, yeah, you're right. He did take a break. It was after Jumanji 2, I think. Which all what 2018, if I'm not mistaken, which was a year after the sequel came out, I think, or the same year the sequel came out.
Sounds
So
about right.
shortly after he took a break and is now back with Mario, Kung Fu Panda 4, and him and Tenacious D been touring like crazy too.
Well, he also had that YouTube channel for a long time. I think like
Oh
I think he
yeah,
did that like gaming channel or something like that.
I forgot when Jack Black was streaming, dude. That is
Yeah,
so weird.
it's so weird. It was like a weird period of time for him, but like he made it work.
Yeah, it's on. Okay. Now, Tim, I know you got like the golden carpet treatment for getting me able to see the Goosebumps film, and obviously you said you quite enjoyed it a bit. What are some standout moments for you when you look back on this one?
Um, I like so there was always this running joke, and RL always hated it, and I'm glad they left it in because uh, that he was the children's Stephen King.
Mm,
And they
Mm-hmm.
make they reference that joke in the middle of it, and he loses his shit and yells at everybody
That
that
was great.
I was around before Stephen King was around, and it was great because it's not that it bothers somebody. It was always like this is nonsense, and him and Stephen King are actually friends, so.
mhm.
The fact that they were alluding that there was some sort of beef, and then when I had no idea it was in there, so that's the part that made me literally laugh out loud. So yeah, I like that little piece.
I love it. And then he's typing away on the Shining set too real quick. It's
Yes,
great.
yes,
It's
great.
it was absolutely fantastic. I agree. That's my favorite part of the movie as well. Johnny, what are some standout moments for you with the Goosebumps film?
Get that whole spiel about Stephen King. That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
That is the funniest shit ever. And I was like, oh my god, fucking Jack Black just going in on King. That's funny as hell. And yeah, I feel like this actually movie is really trying to say something about letting go and how to deal with your grief and how to process, being angry at the world. I really do think that this movie is really coming at it from a really heartful and honest place, and so I really do appreciate that because I don't feel like this movie, again, like just like the books, doesn't talk at its audience, talks to its audience. It knows its demographic, and Jack Black is great. You know what I mean? Like as R.L. Stein, I couldn't picture anyone else but Jack Black as R.L. Stein. I couldn't see anyone else doing that. I mean, when R.L. Stein did that introduction for the Haunted Mask, yeah, I mean, come on, can you seriously tell me you can't picture Jack Black doing that? I'm like, yeah, that's Jack Black, all right. But yeah, this was a really fun movie, a blast, and making Slappy the main antagonist to like the counterfoil to R.L. Stein is brilliant as his most heinous and monstrous creation. I thought that was great.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
Because I don't think there's any other monster or any other subject that's actually made repeated appearances throughout the books with except for him.
Because there's like 4 different kinds of books for Slappy, right?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I think it's safe to say Goosebumps is, holds up very well. And I think it continues. Like I said, like the Disney Plus show is out now. I haven't had a chance to watch it myself, but I think either today or yesterday it just got renewed for a second season.
You're correct.
So have you had a chance to watch it, Tim? The new one?
I haven't.
Okay.
Sadly, I haven't. I caught part of one of them on a plane.
Okay.
That's not the way to scrutinize a film, is watching on a plane. But I liked that they seem to be doing their own thing. Now this is completely different from the movies. They've made it a little bit more grown up.
Okay.
They're also writing. It's a continuous story, and they keep weaving in Goosebumps stories or Goosebumps characters that as you move from episode to episode. So again, they're doing their own thing with the thing, and it looks good, from from an artistic point of view, from a film point of view. It's well lit, it's well staged. The composition is way cool when you're looking at it. So I have no excuse why I haven't seen it yet. But I haven't. So now that there's another season coming, I'll now be forced to hurry up and see last season before this.
Gotta get together, man. Good stuff, though. Good stuff. Oh, Brandon, I think it's gonna go ahead and wrap it up for Goosebumps this week, man.
Well, I want to ask Tim one more question before we head out.
By all means.
Tim, what were your top 3 favorite designs that you've created for the book series?
Top 3. Well, I can tell you by popularity of sales of posters and prints that I sign, that people order from me, that you guys think are the top 5, and then I'll tell you what ones I like the best. Mine are a little bit more obscure than the top 5. Okay. Top 5 by fans are, starting at number 3 is The Haunted Mask.
Okay.
It's classic.
Number 2, Night of the Living Dummy.
Yep.
And number 1, and it's not even close, is A Day at Horrorland.
Really?
Oh, really? Okay.
Art for that sells crazy. It sells crazy.
Is that the one with the goblin over the?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That shit's iconic. That's iconic right there.
So I expected, I knew Haunted Mask and Night of the Living Dummy were going to be up there, but that one caught me off guard. Now, I like the ones where when RL sent me the 2 sentences of what the book was about, and I just was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do here. Those were the ones I like the best, because I I had to do a little work and come up with something. You give me something like, the Executioner in the Night of Terror Tower. That's easy. It popped in my head real quick. But when you tell me that we have a killer sponge that lives under the sink, I got a harder time with that one. So I got to work a little bit to find the scary in a sponge. So that one, and Egg Monsters from Mars. That was another one where I'm going, okay, is it a giant egg? No, it's a regular size egg. All right. So that, and probably the third one along the same lines, the blob that ate everyone.
Yes, yeah.
A giant blob coming down the street. But when I did the pencil work before there was color on it, it just looked like a giant baked potato coming down the street. And I'm going, there's nothing scary about a baked potato. So it wasn't until I started doing the color work on it that we finally got the scary part to come out of it. So that one kind of moved itself into scary.
That's hilarious. About the baked potato. I love that. That's wonderful. Well, Brandon, I think we go ahead and wrap it up for this week, talking some Goosebumps, dude. It's been an absolute blast going through memory lane, and going back to like my horror roots. It took me a second to realize after Giant said, like, yeah, dude, this is kind of where horror started for me. You brought up a very good point with that. This is like the perfect entry for it, and probably how my future kids will get introduced to horror too. To be honest with you,
Not mine. Mine are going to go the same hell that I went through. You're watching Hellraiser 2 tonight.
Awesome. That's how you teach them right.
That's how you teach them. Like, you want this? You start this journey? Nah, no easy road for you.
Good job, man. Good job, Johnny. And Johnny, where can our listeners find you? For some reason, I don't follow you already, bro.
You can follow me on TikTok on Zuko's Corner. You can follow me on Instagram at Zuko's Corner as well, and also on YouTube at Zuko's Corner, where I just do live reactions, streaming, and pretty much do movie reviews and give you my unbiased opinion about everything.
Very nice, man.
But it's
very
pretty
nice.
much biased, though. So,
of course, only the best here. And links down below as well. Tim, thank you so much for coming on here, man, to talk some Goosebumps with us. It's been an absolute blast and a pleasure getting you on here. Where can our listeners find you online? Where can they find your work? Give us the whole 9 yards.
Just Instagram's the best place to see, because that's where the most current work is. Mm-hmm. And it's Tim Jacobus or hashtag original Goosebumps Illustrator. The other thing that we do regularly is at jacobusstudios.com. That's my website. We sell Goosebumps posters and prints. But the main thing about that is that $10 from every sale of every print goes to buying food for the food bank at the end of the street here. And you guys have been incredibly gracious, and we have been able to fill a pickup truck every month for the past 43 months. So
awesome.
It's so you can get a poster and do something good.
That's awesome. Links down below as well. I love you're doing it for a good cause too, man. Love it. Oh, I'm so happy that like Goosebumps is like a non-tainted thing right now. I'm so glad. You've told me like so much wholesome stuff with Goosebumps this week, and I'm loving it.
It's what we need to hear.
No, absolutely. It makes my heart happy that Goosebumps is solid all the way through. For our listeners, it's going to go ahead and wrap it up this week. Stay tuned. Of course, next week we got another very special episode coming your way. Stay tuned for all of our short films. We got some good stuff coming here. I'm dropping my film Goonies and Agony very soon. We got Will, who just dropped a film, The Artist 1996 as well. So check those out, guys. But you can support the show by leaving us an iTunes and Spotify review. It truly does help with the show much more than you can imagine. And feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Galaxy Film Productions, as well, guys. And we will talk to you all next week. Bye, guys. All right, guys, and we're here for a little interjection segment brought to you by the Autograph King himself, our director of fan relations here at Galaxy of Film, the man, the myth, the legend, Shamim Dana, of course. How are you doing, Shamim?
I'm good. So updates on the film. So basically, we are right now in the editing stage. We are cutting a 2-hour film down to a 90-minute film.
Oh wow, okay, that's quite a bit.
We should have a new trailer, updated trailer by Thursday.
Okay.
Film should be done by May 1st. And then after that, marketing. After that, and then so pretty much that is where the film is at now. We're thinking about Scott's thinking about he's thinking about going after the big streaming services like Amazon, Netflix, and what's the third one, Max, for streaming?
Hulu or
Netflix? Yeah, Hulu.
Okay.
So, and then he's also trying to get that film into Sundance. So that's his plan so far.
Very nice, man. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very big things
Ambitious.
going on for you. Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, so this is our, I believe, second time meeting Tim, right? Right, Tim?
The second time for what?
You and I meeting again. The first time was in 2018.
Well, we met in person twice.
And twice. And,
Oh, yeah, the second. Yeah, but we've communicated a million times.
Yeah. So we've been friends since 2018. So this is the second time in person. About, I would say is our 8. Let me see.
Well, the first time we met was
6 years, San Francisco.
Right, at the San Francisco, the one in Oakland.
So
you said in 2018,
yeah,
and then I hadn't seen you again in person until we were just in Portland together.
So 6 years as friends.
That's
Wow.
it.
Can you believe it? 6
Yeah,
years.
look at you grew up, you got married, you got a kid. Yeah, you're not the same dude. I'm the same old guy. I had no hair then, I got no hair now.
So, Tim, what were some challenges in drawing Goosebumps for your? Were there any challenges with that, Tim?
Yeah, there's always challenges with every illustration, but one of the things that was not a challenge or an ordeal, where there's plenty of times where I work with other authors and I'm not sure where they're going or what they want. And for whatever reason, with all the R.L. Stine stuff, I just knew right away. The minute I would see his synopsis or that, I would see anything that he was doing, it would just click. There was something about it. And it's not like R.L. and I are, we're not similar in age. We're not similar in background. There's nothing external that would make us go, oh, I know why that we can do this together. There's just a thing. And we worked together a couple of years ago on a graphic novel. And that was the first time we were working together in 15 years, something like 13 years. And
so the
same thing happened though. That's the point, is even with all that time passing and he gave me something else and it clicked and I went, oh, I know what we're doing here. And so that was always, the magic. The hardest part about working on Goosebumps was that we were on a train and the train kept rolling. And there was a book that came out every month and there was no room for making a mistake. There was no room for any long periods of time. You could take a couple days off, but you better get back at the desk to hurry up and get your stuff done. And we did that for 10 years straight. So it was the consistent, knowing how that you had to maintain a consistency.
So the second question is, when was the first time you met R.L. Stine? First meeting? April 92?
So first book was in 92. That was Welcome to Dead House. It was
That's
probably
April 92 or like
no. That's a good question. It was late spring, early summer. I think it was June.
June of 92.
92. Yeah.
Wait, the book came out in April of 92, so the first time meeting would have been.
Oh no. I didn't meet him. We were doing book covers for 2 years before I shook his hand.
Oh,
yeah. I went to an event, and they're going, yeah, you could maybe finally meet him here. Like he was like a mystery man, and I would be at Scholastic, and they're going, oh, he just left. You could have. So there was a thing where he was speaking one night. It was a Scholastic event at an exterior place. It was in a nice restaurant in Manhattan. Or a guy, go ahead, go there. Go ahead and you get a chance to meet him. And he was also speaking that night. So I got there a little bit late. There were lots of people. This is a big event. There's a couple hundred people, and everybody's milling around. And I could see where the stage is where he's going to speak, and I'm going, I can't see from back here. So I noticed that there was like this little walkway, and I was going, wow, if I sneak up there and weasel my way down, I'll be able to see him, and get a good view. So I sneak up, get past some people, and I weasel my way down, and I'm standing there, and the person I was with taps me on the shoulder while we're standing waiting for him to come on the stage. And I go, what? And he gives me one of these, right next to you. And I turn to my left, and RL's standing right next to me. So I introduced myself. He didn't know who I was. He didn't even know what I looked like. So yeah, we met there, and he went on stage and spoke, and then came back and talked with me again. And over the years, he's been very gracious. He took me and my ex-wife to Disney World.
That's cool.
An event. I've been to his house. I go to dinner with him. He's a super, super nice guy.
Yeah, my first time meeting R.L. Stine was Tucson Festival Books, 2016. He was talking about, I forgot what it was he was doing at the time in 26. I think it was promoting the movie, right, Tim?
Yeah,
I think
that would have been right.
Doing. Yeah. So I have Tim was RL was really nice. He like signed up. He first looked at me and said, "What, a baseball?" I said, "Tim's on it." Oh, he said, "Okay." And then he signed the Dead House, the Beware book, and it's from Ohio for me. And then
it came from Ohio.
I still need to get him on the poster that you're on. That's my next.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I met his wife. I think it's what's his wife's name? Jane, I think.
Jane, right.
Jane. She was really nice. I caught up on her phone one day, and she said, I explained myself. She said, "Okay, I will let RL know. Just could you send an email to Tucson Festival Books, and they would take care of it." And then that's how I met RJ. She was really nice on the phone. I don't know how I got her number though, but that's funny.
Yeah, you have a way. You have a way.
Yes. Let's say, man, everyone in this chat knows R.L. Stine but me. I'm just like, wow. Should he just call his wife up real quick?
Yeah, so about 6 autographs. 6 autographs of yours now in my collection. Next is going to be a proof book, Tim.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. And Shane, before we go ahead and get ready.
Goosebumps. How are you?
Hi.
Hey.
Son Adrian.
Hey.
Shane, let's go ahead and say goodbye so we can wrap this up.
Sorry.
Say hi to Tim, the Goosebumps.
Hi.
Hey.
What's up? How are you? Good to see you.
We've got a screaming child. So.
Yeah. They all do that. They all do that.
I know. The original. That's amazing.
Yeah, the original Goosebumps.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
See ya. So that is so now it's Adrian's here. Say hi to Tim, Adrian.
Say hi, Tim.
You kid.
He's 5 now, almost 6.
Wow.
Nice, man.
Yeah, he's actually he's really smart, Tim. He can actually do his Japanese already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Shamim, go ahead and say bye real quick so I can wrap up this recording for you.
Alrighty. Tim said he likes the poster.
Oh, cool.